Buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias una vez más por
Good
acompañarnos.
morning, everyone. Thank you once again for being in this webinar cycle. We will have this Ask Me Anything session on front-end development, and the dynamics will be as usual. We will have a brief introduction of our speakers and a presentation of the topic by them, and then we will have the Q&A session. So for that Q&A session, please feel free to open your microphones, turn on your cameras, and ask the questions themselves. So without further ado, I'll hand the microphone over to the speakers. Well, hello, good afternoon. I'm Federico Salomon. I'm working specifically in the development area of GeneXus, more specifically in front-end modeling. And today we will be talking about that. So, well, who's next? Alejandro or Daniel? Yeah, this is Alejandro Silva, and we also have Daniel Mendez as members of the team. And we are open to any questions that you may have, of course. As you will have seen in other events, some topics that in a way converge in this topic have been discussed. So we will be talking about front-end development and modeling specifically, and what progress we have made in terms of some tools, what is available nowadays, maybe a bit of Angular, a bit of first generation web. And well, so we're open to any questions.
Ok, vea, si son errores, si son cosas nuevas, pues, nada que ver, ¿verdad?
Veo que Orlando está hablando. Hola Orlando, ¿qué tal? ¿Tienes alguna pregunta?
I can see that Orlando was talking. Orlando, how are you? Have you got any questions?
Bueno, Aníbal, si querés, nos pasás tú alguna de las preguntas.
Okay, Anibal, so maybe we can start with some of the questions that you have. Hey, can you hear me? Okay, so a question is, what do you know about the Angular generator? This is one of the questions that I got. The Angular generator is being released. We're now releasing the 7th upgrade with some improvements and new features, and also bridging the gap that we had in some terms. And well, it can be used. It's up and running. Great. I have another question by Danielle that says, if I have to start a new project, what do I need to take into account when it comes to deciding between web or Angular generators? I mean, traditional generators or an Angular generator? Okay, that is a good question. So web and Angular generators nowadays will, because of the programming model and their own features, they cover two different kinds of applications, to put it in a way. On the one hand, we have what we call back office applications. So these are applications that are more oriented to online run systems you require a lot of precision and accuracy in terms of the control on the user's input. So in that sense, web generators tend to have some features that, or maybe some ways of describing the layouts that are a bit higher level, which makes it easier to implement that kind of dialogue. By contrast, the Angular generator is a generator, if I may, that has different features with a slightly different programming model that makes it a bit more oriented towards making a faster interface by sacrificing some UI features that would allow you to have a more precise control on the user's actions. So just to put it in simpler words, as an example, the web generator has what we call field-to-field validation, which basically is when you change from one field on the screen to another, you trigger validations that the generator will decide whether they are triggered locally or in the backend. And in the case of the Angular generator, it uses the smart devices programming model to put it quickly. So that makes it a bit different. All events will go to the server to be solved, and that is like one of the main differences between them. This makes the Angular generator a bit lighter when it comes to running it on the browser, which is good, but it will lose one or two features. And on the other hand, the web generator is a bit heavier because of the code that is needed to run all these logics. But it will allow you to be more precise in terms of validation. It doesn't mean that you can't choose the web generator to build a front end, a classic front end application, or maybe you want to use the Angular generator to make a back office application. It's not black or white, but it does depend to some extent on the programming model and the features that you want to take advantage of. This will make your development simpler. So there is no recipe to decide whether you want to do this or you want to use the web generator or the Angular generator. That depends on what you want to do, and that is an overview of the differences. Apart from that, our main goal and the goal that we're working on at the moment is to try to make these two different generators converge. And to allow the web generator to take advantage of different things that we have implemented or the experience that we have gained thanks to the Angular generator, and at the same time have the Angular generator get some extra features as well, you know, similar to those that you will find in your web generator. Our goal at the moment is to have both generators converge, and they will grow closer to each other in terms of these features that I was telling you about. I think it was probably a rather lengthy answer for you for a very short question, but if you have any further doubts, comments, just let me know. But yeah, that's it. In a nutshell, the web generator is better for back office applications in terms of programming, and the Angular generator for customer-facing applications, as we call them usually. Well, they tend to be lighter in the UI, and that makes it easier for it to be programmed with that. Okay, we have another question by Federico. If the Sorry, I could not hear the question. What GeneXus does after the U16 is user control as another KB object. So it's an improvement. It's a new generation of user controls that were installed outside first, and now it's part of the knowledge base. And what it allows you is to specifically use external markups to create some customizable controls. With that advantage, you have absolute control on the knowledge that you're encapsulating. There are some things that will have to be solved through the very programming of the control, and some others will be automatically solved by GeneXus. But This is talking about both families of generators, first generation generators, as to put it in some way. And then in Angular, we also have this feature. And then this peculiarity of Angular in terms of being an independent library that could also be extended if need be. So maybe Alejandro can give us some further details. But basically, it's an absolutely independent library that can be extended and customized, and you can build upon it if you need to work with the Angular generator. But in the knowledge database of GeneXus, the recommendation is the user control object that will allow you to do precisely that. Yeah, let me add something just to let me add something to what Fed has said. What Angular has and that it's different is that the control library that we use to implement the GeneXus controls is a separate package. So it's not together with the generator, but it's a package that you can use to implement any application that is handmade, let's say. So we integrated this library in the Angular generator. And of course, that library of controls has edit and text, log, and buttons and everything. And it implements the whole interface that is needed for the GeneXus controls. And what Fede was saying is that that library is extensible. You can modify it if you need to. And of course, the sources are open. So just to wrap up this notion is that for the Angular generator, the fact that you can make it extensible to further levels, that is by design. One is the control library itself that can be modified or extended. And of course, on top of the fact that, as Fede said, we have this control support through user control 2.0, both in the Angular generator as well as in the web generator. Any questions that we may have from the audience to the team? Okay, I have another one. On which evolution lines are you working with these generators, specifically talking about Java? I think that we've been working on a very important features that is applied by these generators, which is the design system object. That for the front-end modeling, we believe that it's an extremely important improvement. This would be the thin object evolution of GeneXus, and I think that that represents a major improvement in terms of design modeling, of how to take that design to GeneXus applications. And then also, what Ale was saying, right, that we are working also on trying to make both generators converge by applying all the acquired knowledge throughout the Angular development stage, and we're applying some resources to the more traditional web generators. Thank you. What elements do I need to take into account when it comes to using Sketch with traditional web generators? That is a question that Cesar asked us. Should I answer? I think that first and foremost, and this is something that we also talked about in other Ask Me Anything sessions, is, well, you know, when working with designers you need to integrate generators to the programming cycle, and you need to follow some recommendations or guidelines that are established that include some documents that tell you what is the most optimal way of modeling these designs on Sketch, and to have that knowledge be passed in a successful way to GeneXus by using the input. You have some plugins as well that you can use for this purpose that also make integration much easier. But I think that, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. You can encapsulate and structure this knowledge in the best possible way in your sketch. And then GeneXus will import that, will create all the structures, and it will also be adjusted once that knowledge is part of the KB. You will adjust some visual details that could be slightly different towards in terms of the design specs. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that that's the key. Yeah, Federico, let me just add something. That tool is going to bring in some elements to the design system, and that is going to give me blocks that I will be able to use later on from GeneXus. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah. Cesar is asking again another question. So he says, once I've imported a sketch, can I modify it with new imports? Well, I understand that you will have an overlap with everything that you have modified in your knowledge database if you just run a full import again. So you should have a way of specifying things that are not the same as GeneXus imports when you get the new design. Any other question by the audience? Come on, let's take advantage of this opportunity of asking any questions we don't have in-person events at the moment. And so what we try to, do through these Ask Me Anythings is that you can have the whole research and development team at your disposal so that you can ask any questions that you may have in terms of any doubts. So do feel free. This is the time to ask any questions that you may have.
¿Algo que quieran comentar, chicos, del equipo?
Anything that you guys would like to talk about specifically? Okay, so what I can tell you about is something that we are working on and that has that we are really enthusiastic about. And this is that even though in the Angular generator you have NPM packages as a native feature, that is something that you got from the scratch. In the traditional web generator, you don't have a way of integrating these packages without doing some work outside GeneXus. Even though you can do it, it's not easy or too straightforward. And that is something that we are working on to make it better so that you will be able to integrate, let's say, controls. That is something that we are trying out at the moment. You can implement controls that are distributed with NPM packages. And this goes along the same lines of what Alejandro was saying a couple of minutes ago of having both generators converge so that they can get to this middle ground. And I think that this will bring in some really interesting stuff to the traditional web generator. So we're working a lot on that. Okay, another question. Are there any examples of an Angular project and web project that is SDPWA? Yeah, for Angular, I have a knowledge database that we've been using for a while in the training team. So, teach courses and stuff like that. And it has an Angular version. And we also have mobile native applications. So we can send you some references, Cesar, if you want. Yeah, and Fede, maybe it's the same, but at least I saw two examples. We have a travel agency that is input from Sketch, and you have the generated application. because that is something that you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, and it's a sort of tutorial that will take you from the input from Sketch to the Angular generated application, or even with a web generator.
Bien, perfecto.
Luis is asking us, are you thinking about improving the user experience to be able to, for instance, define a mask, copy, paste, etc.? A mask. Yeah, I think that Luis means pictures by masks. Do you mean field formatting? Yeah, picture. Okay, he answered on the chat. Okay, so there are some things about that. As a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, we were talking about a project that revolves around extending this. There are different sides to this and different angles to this, and depending on the scope that you want for this, what this change implies. I think that nowadays the user control alternative in a way allows you to have more extensibility in terms of that. You can import a library that takes care of resolving the picture of different kinds of fields, for instance. But at the same time, we are not ruling out the possibility of extending this based on what could come up with this project. But yeah, Luis, I think that you can have an alternative by extending it through a user control. So yeah, the answer is yes.
Por ahí, Cristian nos pregunta.
Okay, so Christian asked us, I'm not finding a lot of documentation on SAP and OData. By any chance, are you thinking about a course on that? Well, a couple of days ago, we had an Ask Me Anything session on SAP. So we can, Christian, send you the link so that you can watch it. It's recorded and uploaded.
Sí, es correcto lo que dice Alejandro.
Jorge Izquierdo says, yes, what Alejandro said is correct. At least I had a sketch file that was used to make presentations on the news with GX17. I don't know if there is a new version that is improved because it had a couple of little mistakes, that one. Any comments, any questions? Yeah, I want to add something to that. We were working with the input from Sketch to with all the cycle. We did some hard work before closing internally the upgrade 7. We spent 2 weeks working on that. It did have a couple of flaws, and we fixed a lot of things on the input side. Some things were not really cool, and we also fixed some things on the generator side. There were also some things that were not really faithful to what had been intended through the design. So in this U7, we have a lot of fixes, both on the import side as well as on the generation side. I haven't got the link at the moment, Jorge, but I will make sure to send you the link so that you can find this example and you can download all the documentation so that you can give it a try. Okay. And once the webinar is done, I will make sure that you get this information. Alexis is asking us if we're going to be uploading the recording of this meeting, and the answer is yes. All webinars that we are conducting, once they are finished, they are uploaded to genexus.com/webinars. There's the link that Virginia shared, so you can find it there.
¿Alguna pregunta?
Any other questions?
¿Alguna experiencia para compartir?
An experience that you'd like to share, perhaps? Federico, Ale? Well, I can tell you a bit about what we have in terms of front-end modeling with this new that is coming up, or this Unanimo thing. But let's answer Cesar's question that I saw he asked something on the chat. Yeah, Cesar said, to generate Angular, do I need a license for the last released upgrade? Yes, Angular is licensed, but the trial version includes it.
¿Ibas a comentar algo, Federico?
Federico, you were going to say something? Okay, we have a question by Subiyana. Good afternoon. I need that the GX print server.jar works on HTTPS. There's a SAC that talks about how to include the certificates, but it's not clear how to use it.
Hola, Francisco.
Hello, Francisco. Yeah,
seguir el tema que tenemos, sí,
we can follow up on that. Yeah, on the printing mechanism.
podemos trabajar en mejorar un poco
We can
en ese documento
we can work a bit more on that document and the document that talks about how to work through it. I have a couple of examples that are using that and up and running. So maybe we can have a conversation outside and perhaps update the wiki so that it's made available for everyone.
¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Any other questions?
Fede, ¿ibas a compartir algo hoy?
Fede, you were about to say something. So if we don't have any questions for now, you can just go on. Yeah, I was about to tell you all the news that we have on Unanima, which is the design system that GeneXus will distribute. I think it's a great ally when it comes to talking about front-end modeling, right? Because it's a resource toolkit of different sorts, different objects and structures that will allow you to have a very polished design, a very good quality and nice design on top of a better UX just by applying that on the KB. So that's going to be a module in the future that will be distributed and that it contains a user control set, some vectorial images, a totally customized design system for Yanimo. And I think this is an interesting point that, you can start digging into to try to find out about what is going to happen in terms of GeneXus's design systems and how to apply them and how to extend them based on this, which would be the, let's say, original design system. So that is also recommended. It's interesting. So take a look at that and you will see that a lot of things that we've been working on revolve around that. So for example, the design system object or general improvements in terms of controlled modeling or how to take all that knowledge, that design knowledge to the GeneXus knowledge database. So yeah, it's definitely something worth reading.
Cristian nos pregunta,
Christian is asking us, have you got any plans to improve or update the wiki? The information is not always updated and trying to find some solutions every now and then turns into a difficult task. Yeah, Wiki is a project that we are constantly working on. We're always updating and improving it. The volume of information that we have is enormous, and we do know, and we're well aware of the fact that not always is the information absolutely updated, but we are constantly working on trying to improve the search algorithms and adding the largest number of documents we can and making it richer with everyone's contributions. So yeah, we are aware of that, and we're really hoping that it will improve soon.
¿hay documentación para y ejemplos para
Another question, is there any documentation or examples for UC 2.0? That is a question by Carolina. Yeah, can we copy the link to the wiki here in the on the chat? Yeah, sure. There you go. So when we were talking about the, I cannot find it that fast, Carolina. It's just because we were talking about this a couple of minutes ago and I had the link ready to go. Yeah, I think that document is probably the, it constitutes the basis of this user control topic, and you have KBs and that you can download both on in the web generator and the Angular generator. Great. Christian is saying that he would be interested in, for example, how to make user controls. Okay, cool. That's a very broad area. You have a number of alternatives and you need to take a look at each case in particular, but that really depends on whether you're using an external library or framework, or you're working native. If it's done by a front-end developer or a particular designer. So yeah, the answer is very broad. Maybe Christian, we can keep in touch and try to send you a couple of examples or a quick guideline on how to get started, if that's okay with you. Yeah, if you click on that link that we posted, you will find a couple of examples of some very specific cases that could be, maybe a first step of how to, start working on this. Alexis says, I have a doubt. The future of the theme object, will it be replaced? I think I heard something about that. On that, the idea was to improve the way in which you write CSS code. Yes, indeed. And that is what this design system object is all about. As a matter of fact, it makes the declaration and how you work with different styles in the KB easier. So you will have an editor within the design system that will allow you to define the class, the CSS class, and the styles as if you were working in any editor without that abstraction that the theme object had and still has, which tends to be a bit more abstract in that regard. Yes, and it will allow you to turn the theme object into a DSO automatically, right? Yeah, indeed. Perfect. Francisco is asking us, the use of Unanimo, will it imply that you can get errors like type 403 errors? In other words, will it modify the form in which you execute events? Well, it shouldn't. The scheme will remain the same. So this is a layer that goes on top, which is at HTML or CSS or JavaScript levels in some cases, but it shouldn't affect any of that in any way. Okay, Luis is asking us, is there any way to set GxGeneral .js in a way that it doesn't interfere with the UC's JS? That's got me thinking, I'd like to know why you wouldn't want it to interfere and in which case it's affecting you. Yeah, what kind of interference are you having, Luis? If what you want is to, if you want to download GxGeneral, you could replace the JavaScript that is absolutely dynamic. You could replace it with another one with the same name that has what you need. But I would love to talk about this, why you would want to do that, and see if maybe we can help you with some more specific answers. But from a technical standpoint, you can do it. Yeah, you can just replace it by any one that you need. Mauricio Ronchi says, we are in a migration process from GX Evo 3 to GX17. Do you recommend for this type of migration to include the use of Unanimo, or would it be something that is better off used in new projects? That's actually a great question. That does depend a lot on the capabilities of the team in terms of integrating everything. In my very humble opinion, I think that it's always good to try to adopt these things at an early stage, but that also implies that the team will be, will need to handle this. And so where are you standing in terms of the migration? I think that nowadays we are in a phase in which you can apply Unanimo to this kind of project, but you need to adjust a couple of things because you're coming from a KB that works with one theme, and then through the different versions started working with different schemes in terms of not only visual aspects, but also functioning aspects such as, for example, smooth and stuff like that. So we need to know where you're standing. But yeah, I'd say that Unanimo would make the modeling of these screens easier, and it will also add quality to the project. Okay, he's also asking us if there is any example available with the use of Unanimo. Yes, we have KBs that apply it. We have the intention of releasing it at the beginning of next year. I haven't got exact dates, but we do have a couple of examples, and you can take a look at it. We can see how it's done. You can even apply it in some things. So yeah, we will send you references, definitely. Jorge is asking us, how can I integrate two GeneXus and use Unanimo? Okay, Jorge, it's going to work like a module that you will integrate through the matrix. But now what you can do is you can integrate it as an XPZ more, as another XPZ. Actually have a KB that allows you to export this and integrate it to your KB. Basically, you're gonna set Unanimo's design system as default style, and you're gonna model with the default classes that you have in GeneXus. So you will see how everything looks like, and also it will allow you to model some needs. For example, a sidebar to, browse with elements, or a drop-down menu, things of the sort, So yeah, definitely we can send you some references so that you can do some digging. Federico, maybe, I think that the question was about where you used to set, before on the KB or the object, your theme, that property has been renamed as style to make it more generic, and you can select a theme or a design system object. It's at the same level as what you had the theme object before, right? Yes, exactly what you said, Danielle. We generalized that property so that now you can specify both a theme and a design system object. Perfect. Any other questions?
Cabe aclarar que Unánimo aplica
I think it's worth saying that Unanimo applies to anything that has an interface. The master page or the default transactions, forms, all of that will be submitted once you apply to Unanimo specifications. So for example, colors and fonts and UX improvements in general. Any other comments or questions? Come on, do take advantage of this opportunity. We have some great members of our team. So, you don't always get the chance to talk to them face to face. So do ask any questions, any comments, open your mics, turn on your cameras. Any comments by you guys that you would like to share with the audience? Okay, we have Francisco asking us, regarding the data access in the .NET generator and its monitoring with the WMI, can we have any improvements? It's a good question, and I have no idea. And then he says on top of that, like the Java generator. Yeah, we need to take a look at that. I don't know if anybody here in the team has any insights on this. This is a more kind of back-end question, but if you send us the question by email, we can redirect it to whoever can answer. Yeah, but I do know that we are working on trying to, I'm going to answer in a very vague way, but we are trying to improve the observability of the systems. Let's say that they are observable with, for example, but by integrating things that are done in one way in .NET and in another way in Java, well, maybe we will have some interesting news in that. I know that they're working on that, but it's not an area of my expertise. So I can just be very vague and tell you what I've heard about it. I can tell you that, yes, they are working on that. Yeah, and I think that with a new framework, we are also going to include some improvements that probably will be applicable. Great. Then he says the Java generator is much easier. And yes, absolutely. I agree. Okay, any other question? Yeah, there's another question. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have this question that says, is that at the default style property? And the answer is yes, you will be able to have it at the level of object or more generally in the KB setup. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so if we have no further questions or comments, we will close this session. And before that, what I'd like to tell you is that all our forums are being migrated to Stack Overflow. The old forums are in read-only mode, and all the new forums that are interactive will be found in Stack Overflow. I have just copied the links on the chat, so if you have any questions or comments or things to add, do that right there. Okay, so closing this session, I'd like to thank all the team for their participation and all of you, of course, for coming and joining us once again. So thank you. We still have a lot of webinars until the 16th of December, when we will release GeneXus's roadmap for soon. So thank you and see you around.